Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's already almost Christmas, so I decided to put up my Christmas tree and decorate my house a little bit for some Christmas spirit. When we first moved into this house, I had the plan to make pillowcases for every season of the year, including Christmas, because Christmas of course is its own season. And I ended up buying fabric for most of the seasons and making one set of pillowcases that you see behind me here. I made the ones with the sunflowers and the one with dinosaurs and I absolutely like them. But this was 2.5 years ago or something, when it was starting to be spring and I figured these would be perfect for spring and summer. But as you can see coming by now, I spent the next 2.5 years not making pillowcases. Now I have had this fabric for a while, so I decided to finally actually make them. For this episode, I want to start off by making my Christmas pillowcases that I was planning on making. I have two types of fabrics that kind of match together. And I'll be making 2 smaller pillowcases and 2 larger pillowcases. So one of each size in each fabric. That was always the plan, and that's also what I did for the sunflower and the dinosaur fabric as well. Now after that, I do actually want to get a head start on some of the other seasons that I bought fabric for. So for the winter season, I have this one with some deer and some wintry vibes. And I have one with penguins, because penguins are just a lot of fun. And then I have one for autumn as well. I know it's just been autumn, but you can never be early enough with these type of things, because otherwise I know I'll just procrastinate until it's winter again. And for autumn I have these hedgehogs, I think they're really cute, and some of these mushrooms, pine cones print on here. But for now, since it's Christmas, I figured we'd get started with the Christmas ones.
Throughout this video, I'm gonna try and explain the steps that I take to make these pillowcases as detailed as possible, so if you want to make similar pillowcases to these, you can follow along if you want. But please remember, even though I really like how they turn out in the end, I did kind of just make up this design out of nowhere, so it might not be for everyone. The first step was measuring my pillows. I am using square pillows of 2 different sizes. So I'm effectively creating 2 of the same pattern but with different sizes. My pillows are square, so I started off by drawing this square onto the fabric. For this I did add a couple of centimeters to the measurements just to make sure my entire pillow fit into the case comfortably. You can play around a little bit with these measurements depending on how tightly you want to fit your pillow, which might also depend on how firm the pillow is. This square piece will create the front of the pillow. After cutting that out, it was time to create the back of the pillow, making 2 rectangular pieces that are just as wide as the square piece, but a little less long. For this measurement, I took half of the width of the square and added a couple of centimeters to it. I didn't really do this very consistently, and at some points I didn't really add enough, so I would recommend you add about 5 centimeters for smaller pillows and about 8 centimeters for larger pillows. Because these rectangles will add up to be larger than the area of the pillow, it creates an overlap in the middle so that the pillowcase can stay open and not have a closure, because I don't really want to use a zipper for this. But you can still take the pillow out of the pillowcase, but it won't leave a hole when you just have it on your couch. After I cut out all the pieces from the first fabric I'm using, I made life a little easier for myself by just layering these pieces on top of the new fabric and cutting it out like this. This saves me from having to draw it on every piece of fabric separately. After cutting it all out, per pillow you should have 2 rectangular pieces and a square piece. And because I'm making quite a few pillows, this added up to be quite a bunch of pieces for me. Like I said, the 2 rectangular pieces will leave a slit in the middle of the back of the pillow, and I do want to finish my edges neatly, which is why I wanted to hem one of the long sides of each of the rectangular pieces. That should create a nicely finished edge. To do that, I folded it over once and ironed it, and then folded it over again and ironed it once more, so that none of the raffling fabric would show. Something to pay attention to is that if you have a directional fabric, like the one I'm using with the deer, it is important to hem the left side of one piece of fabric and the right side of another piece of fabric. Or if you want to make it a horizontal slit, the top side of one piece of fabric and the bottom side of the other piece of fabric. After this, it was time to do the actual hemming, and for that I switched to my twin needle because I really like the double stitching that it leaves behind, but that's complete personal preference, so you can do whatever stitch you like there. The fabric that I'm using is not stretchy at all, so I don't need to do it for that, but I just like the look of it. I know I don't pre-iron a lot of things usually, but I do have to admit it makes the hemming a little easier. After I finished hemming all the 8 pieces for the 4 pillowcases that I'm making with this Christmas fabric, it was time to start pinning the 3 pieces together. For this, I first laid the square piece on top of the table, with the right side facing me. Then I placed the first rectangular piece on top of the fabric, making sure the direction in the fabric is facing the same way for each piece, and the hemmed side is facing towards the middle. Once that was pinned on, I did the same for the other rectangular piece. After that was done, of course I also had to do this for the other 3 pillows. Then it is just as simple as just stitching along the edge of the square. This time I used my regular needle for this because you won't see these stitches anyway. While sewing along the edge, of course you also have to sew the corners, and for that I'd like to share a little tip that I've been using for a very long time. I don't know if it's a common thing people do, but when I come across a corner like this, what I like to do is sink my needle into the fabric and then lift my foot. After that you can turn the fabric around to whatever corner you want and put the foot back down. But because you sunk the needle into the fabric will rotate along the same axis as your needle, and you can continue stitching just where you left off. If you don't sink the needle into the fabric, you run the risk of starting at a different point than where you finished, and I just think it's a little less neat. Like I said, I don't know if this is anything new or if everyone ever always does this, but if not, then maybe someone can use this tip. After sewing it all together, I trimmed the corners of it just to give the outer corners a little bit more of a clean finish afterwards. I could have also trimmed the edges, but I didn't really feel that was necessary. So for this next part, I am literally using a hair tie that I cut into 2 pieces. For the larger pillows, the slit is quite large and it does tend to stand open a little bit. So what I want to do is I want to create a loop with this hair tie and sew on a button so that I can close the pillow with the loop around the button and the slit will stay closed just a little bit better. I managed to sew on the loop with the sewing machine, although it was a little finicky, and I did go back and forth quite a bunch of times just to make sure it's secure. Then I sewed on the button by hand. And that was it for my Christmas pillows. They are all done, but like I said before, I still want to try and finish my autumn and winter pillows as well. So back to the sewing machine it was, this time to create 8 more pillowcases. I really need to learn how to just make one of something instead of making literally 12 pillowcases for a single video. It might be a little bit much, but here we are. I won't let you watch through the whole process again, so here's just me speed running through the sewing. And with that, all my pillowcases are finished. First, here we have the sunflower and dinosaur pillows that I already made a couple years ago. I still like them very much, and once spring starts again, I'll probably use them again. For in the autumn, I now have these cute little hedgehogs and some winter pine cones and mushroom prints. For winter we have penguins and just general winter animals. And finally, for Christmas, I have these cozy Christmas pillows that I'll leave on for the next couple months. I hope you all enjoyed watching it. I am really happy with my pillowcases, and if you do decide to make a similar one, please let me know because I'd love to see it. For now, I wish you a very nice day, and of course, happy holidays next week. I hope you will all join me again for my next project. Bye!